Yo people, what's up and welcome back to another Pro League Roundup. This is the final week of Stage 2 and we had a Copa Elite Champion and some great games throughout all the regions. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, subscribe if you want to see more content, and let's get into it. Let's kick things off in Brazil, where we saw Ninjas in Pyjamas take their second tournament in a row after their 6th Invitational win a few months ago. They secured first place in the Copa Elite 6 of Stage 2, confirming themselves as the best team in Latin America. They made a flawless run through the group stage of the tournament and all the way up to the semi-finals where they faced out against Team Liquid and managed to win after being a map down and coming back to win 2-1 in the series, beating them again in the direct rematch after beating them in the finals of the 6th Invitational, and they were now up to face the young and upcoming Team 1 in the finals. The final kicked off with Cafe, and the series was looking to be a banger as both teams collected 3 rounds, breaking even after the first half, but I would say the favour lied with NIP as they managed to collect 3 attacking rounds in this time on a relatively defender-sided Cafe after being 3-1 down, collecting those 2 further rounds to break even and put the momentum in NIP's hand. And their momentum lit them up as Pino started to dominate with Maestro, along with a great 1v3 clutch on Smoke from Kamikaze. NIP completely shut Team 1 out the map and did not allow them to win a single round, winning map 1 of the best of 3 7-3. We headed to Oregon next, and of course the pressure was on for Team 1 to stay in the match, and this is I believe their first final they've played in a tournament as their new team, so I was worried that maybe their inexperience at this stage of a competition and not winning a round since round 4 of the first map might be too much for them to reset and not be rolled over in a 2-0 loss. But once again, as they have many times in the last few months, they showed that they really are a truly talented group of players with massive potential who deserve to be in every big match they found themselves in, as they balanced the matchup with a 7-5 Oregon win. It didn't look to be the case in the first half, as NIP defended their way to a 5-1 half, meaning Team 1 had only won 1 round in 10 attempts over the last 2 maps. And for any team, even a big experienced team like Team Liquid, who suffered a similar fate to NIP in the SI finals, will really struggle to make back the deficit of that many rounds, especially against the best team in the world, Ninjas in Pyjamas. But somehow they did, as this Oregon played out to be an attacker-sided map, with Team 1 recovering excellently and not losing a single round all half, racking up 6 rounds and a flawless defensive half, shutting out NIP 7-5. And from the start to the end of this map, Team 1 were covering all areas of gameplay, as Lagonis ran shit on support with 11 kills, Alamau on flex with 13, and their primary fragger KDS with 10. But funnily enough, on match point, these 3 players were dead, and Neskin and Levy were in a 2v4 left to clutch up, with 8 kills only between them. But this is why Team 1 are on track to be one of the best teams in the world in my opinion, as these 2 players who had a quiet game somehow managed to clutch up, with Levy particularly grabbing a 1v3, forcing map 3 with the momentum now being in their favour. And there was no better place to throw down than on Coastline, the home of hectic gameplay. Just to mention here, I loved seeing Psycho play Rook in this tournament. Rook has a high win percentage and Psycho definitely boosted it, as he had some big plays in the final days of the competition with that magnified MP5, helping put rounds on the board for his team. NIP delayed Team 1 well on defense, with a good balance of shooting drones and then falling back or holding onto off-site positions to the bitter end, usually in trade positions even if they did die. They just wanted to waste time, and it kept Team 1 on their toes, having to re-drone constantly and often unable to collect the full intel that they need, and being punished for it. After NIP had tore apart Liquid with their attacks on Coastline in the semi-finals, the stage was set for NIP as they headed on to their attacking half with 4 rounds in the bank. And no surprises, they started to pull away, only dropping 1 round as they really effectively found the opening pick and the vertical control to trap Team 1 down, winning 7-3, taking 2 tournament wins back to back in the last few months. GG's to the Ninjas in Pyjamas, they are looking so good right now, and oh my, their Coastline attacks are so dominant too. And just like the last stage of the Copa Elite 6 just before the Invitational, I cannot wait even more now to see how these teams run riot at the August Mexico Major. Flying back to Europe, and we saw a match that I don't think many people were expecting to be so close, as BDS took on Virtus Pro. This was a really interesting match, as both teams are known for often using the same strategy multiple times with great effect, and I think this game was about who could adapt more to the similar setups they were seeing on each other's defense of a bomb site. VP had good basement attacks with not much map control, and they were able to understand their win condition and what spots they needed to execute a plan or win the round by elimination, along with some important shots in tough gunfights being hit. And these important kills and 3 entries specifically from WTG led them to winning their final attacking round on meeting and collecting 3 rounds in the first half, moving on to defense. Virtus Pro had 6 of the 7 opening picks after 7 rounds, and although BDS were doing what they do by clutching up rounds with minimal manpower and map map control, VP started to really use the opening pick well by shooting drones early and pre-firing entry points, meaning the last players alive of BDS could easily be flanked or killed on site from an unexpected angle, with not enough time to drone or to collect live information in the last 30 seconds of a round. As Shaiko 4K brought the score back even at 5-5, and BDS really were dragging themselves through the matchup as they collected another round by the skin of their teeth, securing overtime. VP brought the score themselves back to 6-6 as they continued to burn time well, shoot drones and disrupt BDS around the map, refusing to give up their power positions on or off site. And it was another max overtime game as both teams clutched the 1vx scenario on their overtime defenses, Rafał and Rask being the saviours of their team with some big plays. But BDS finally adjusted on their own though, being more effective this time as Shaiko finally found the opening pick on WTG as himself and Rafał with combined 30 kills led BDS to a narrow 8-7 victory, securing their spot at the August Major. Credit to VP though, as they had a really clear plan this game and massive respect for that, as it honestly worked even with more kills all around on their team. But BDS had something big to play for like a major sport, and we saw the iconic plays that we expect from all the BDS players. And this was one of the best games of the season across any region, period. And next we headed to Consulate for NAVI vs Empire, a map both teams are efficient on. Take this and the fact that Empire are in such strong form right now, I was very excited to see how this map would play out. And Team Empire showed they had their plan in order, kicking off the game in round 1 with a flawless garage attack. And honestly, credit to how strong Empire's defaults are. They may be in really predictable positions due to their previous games, but they still managed to shut down NAVI's hold, and it was nice to see Empire once again let Joystick off the leash to go and lurk around the map to stop NAVI making plays. Joystick is often that X factor for Empire that stops them being completely hard countered by their otherwise predictable style, as Empire had a convincing 4-2 attacking half, and they continued their strong performance as the counterplay just wasn't good enough from NAVI to dismantle their Empire strategy. Doki tried to keep them in the game up against match point with 10 HP and a triple kill, but they weren't able to pick up enough rounds to stop Empire closing out the game 7-4, with Always front and center dropping 11 kills, plus Shepard doing what he does once again, helping get that objective completed every round and securing a big win for Team Empire. And on day 2, Empire's run kept on going as one of their big rivalry matches of the season against G2 fell in their favour. Both teams scrapping to overtime, but with Empire going on to dominate the final 2 rounds and win 8-6. I definitely think one of the main deciding factors of this game was how effective Empire were at collecting the entry kills compared to G2. Dan and Joystick really stepped up in a big way here, both being +4 on entry as the 2 main fraggers in this match. And Dan specifically was the highlight player of this match and the rightly given MVP, as he was fired up and dragged his team to a win with a big 17 kill performance. Meanwhile, Virtue was the only player on G2 with a positive entry stat, being +1. They had a decent amount of kills between the team, but it really didn't matter that much as they weren't that important kills compared to the amount of entries Team Empire were collecting. G2 secured the overtime, but it wasn't enough as Empire took the final round, successfully dismantling G2's basement defense, with Joystick and Always both collecting 2Ks to close the game out 8-6 for the Russians. A struggling Team Secret managed to end the stage on a high note as they denied a strong Team Vitality from any chance at a major spot, closing them out in a 7-4 scoreline. The 2 transfers brought in from the Soniqs at the start of the season, Sleben and Gomfi, were the dynamic duo of this game, leading the lobby in kills and cost, as we uncharacteristically saw many of Vitality's big gunners like P4 and Bibu struggle to put kills on the board, with only Rises managing to hit a positive scoreline. And I think an out of form Vitality really plays into an in-form Secret's favour, as although they have great coordination, I think Vitality often finds success from players like P4 being able to make space for the team, especially on attack. So if he can't get anything done, the typical high level of strategy from Secret, along with the fraggers in good form, can leave Vitality frustrated and their performances a bit flat. Up against match point, Vitality pulled 2 rounds out of the bag, but Gomfi closed out his good performance with a triple kill on Yana and ended the comeback with a 7-4 win for Team Secret. It will be interesting to see how both these teams will perform in the final stage of the season after the Mexico Major. And finally, heading over to NAL, we saw Soniqs take on TSM. It was a good, well-rounded performance from TSM, not playing into the solo gunfights that Soniqs often thrive on, but instead setting up for trades and playing off each other. leading them to really stunt Soniqs and secure themselves a 5-1 half. And they continued to suffocate Soniqs on TSM's attacks as they were patient to set up positionings for the final execute, only dropping 2 rounds on their attack and winning 7-3. Yes, games filled with hero plays are fun to watch, but a well-rounded performance like this from TSM is much more encouraging for their future success. And with the August Major just around the corner, these are the type of team performances we need to see out of TSM against strong teams like the Soniqs. The next big game of the day was Oxygen as they took on DarkZero. Oxygen clearly read into something they felt they could exploit out of DarkZero as they let Foxay waste time around the map, either burning loads of time off the clock for his anchoring teammates or forcing DZ to just ignore him and have to worry about him flanking later in the round. But DZ adjusted well, making sure to address the problem earlier in the round, and the thing is with the style that OXG were playing, it's a gamble if it doesn't work out because the manpower can really spiral away from you. But forget all of that, as the highlight of the game was definitely a rare sight as we saw OXG go to bar stock for one of their defenses and even more rarely win their defense there. And I liked what I saw on the hold as they held as much areas around the site as they could, making the stock site essentially a kill box and allowing them to retake and disable the diffuser after it had been planted. But back onto the game, Hyper was 12-2 after an even 3-3 half as he continued to flourish as the game went on. But Laxing was having a great game himself as the wackiness continued from OXG after their bar defense, with Laxing clutching a 1v1 knife kill. Check this out.
10 seconds left. They might not do it though. They might be willing to hold this on, but at the same time, this will be their last chance. Yogg trying to swing both sides. The player with higher HP currently holding the plant right now. Panba gets the first trade. Can he get the second? Oh no! It's Laxing with the knife to clutch it out instead, and OXG take the round.
But it wouldn't be a DarkZero game though, as another DZ match headed to overtime with them winning their basement defense and forcing the 6-6 scoreline. Both teams took a round each as we found ourselves at max overtime, but a good hold on Jim Master saw DZ force OXG into their lines of sight as DarkZero just about won 8-7, led by a great game from Hyper with a 20-9 scoreline, having over a 2.0 KD. But OXG did bounce back very well though on day 2 as two titans of the NAL faced up against each other, as OXG looked to end the stage on a high note after having a rough split and missing out on a major spot entirely compared to their first place finish in stage 1. They were set to face a strong TSM with Geo back for Pojo in the last few weeks, and many would have said this was TSM's game to lose. But when you have 5 talented players like OXG have, sometimes form doesn't matter, as all the OXG players are skilled regardless of form, and they shut down TSM decisively 7-3. And something that always bodes well for a team like OXG in my opinion is having a good team performance, as sometimes players like Laxing, Fox and Vert can find themselves on the other side of the map completely isolated from the rest of the team and have a massive amount of pressure to pull off a hero flank or just be shut down by crossfires. But this game saw them share the load, with 3 of the 5 OXG players ending on an 11-6 scoreline, something very rare to see in any matchup. Meanwhile, TSM only ended with 1 player breaking even as the rest of the team went negative in KD. It wasn't that TSM weren't switched on, as round 2 and 3 saw Geo and Charla clutch back-to-back 1v3s, but OXG didn't let this tilt them as they reset, as Yogg and Foxay in the following rounds were able to collect back-to-back 4Ks also, with Fox having a 1v3 clutch of his own. And TSM just couldn't reset like OXG did, only being able to find 1 round in the rest of the game, as OXG just grew and grew, running away with the game, winning 7-3 and ending their shaky stage on a high note. In one of the biggest games of the stage, Disrupt Coach Easily and player Iconic faced up against their old org Soniqs, as both teams battled to try secure their spot at the Mexico Major this month. And it was Soniqs who were headed to Mexico in a great matchup where they denied Disrupt a major spot, winning 7-4. We headed to Consulate, which Disrupt often shine on, being on a 5-game win streak here, so the pressure was on Soniqs and on Disrupt also to perform on arguably their best map. And they started well, with Iconic once again being the standout player here, frustrating Soniqs as he roamed around the map elusively, picking off the Soniqs players who were lurking around the map themselves. But Soniqs are no slouches on Consulate either, as Rexon kept up his good form from the recent few weeks on an aggressive secondary hard breach with Ace having 9 kills after 6 rounds, putting that AK to good use and helping bring the score back to a 3-3 half for them. DG did a good job collecting the entry kill on attack, however both teams had so much to play for, so this didn't seem to phase the 4 remaining Soniqs players as they were able to make up the difference multiple times on their defense, and before we knew it, Soniqs were 1 round round away from booking their flights to the Mexico Major. Grixer and Yeti had just been heating up as the game moved forward, but it was Rexon again to save the day, as after Yeti accidentally TK'd Grixer, things were looking scary for Soniqs, but Rexon pulled off a huge flank, retaking the top floor, finding the kills and then denying the plant into lobby in a 1v3. Crazy map and even more crazy round to secure Soniqs in the Major and break Disrupt's 5-game win streak on Consulate. Great game when the stakes were high from both these teams. Commiserations of course to Disrupt, but congratulations to Soniqs for securing that spot at the Mexico Major. And that's it, just like that, stage 2 is over. There's been some absolutely incredible games this stage, and I personally think this stage has been even more interesting than the first one. And considering we ended on NAL, specifically with that region, I feel like in stage 1 a lot of the big teams were trying to find their feet and adjust to the meta, but I think now after the Invitational, we really saw a lot of teams learn and pick up new things and understand how to change their game, and so this stage we've really got to see some of the best out of these teams. Take a team like SSG for example, who really struggled in the first stage. Now picking up hot and cold, they've just gone on from strength to strength and are really playing an exciting style of Siege. And I think this transfers across all regions, as there's been so many great teams to watch out for. Furia, Vitality, Mirage, the list goes on. And once again, I just can't wait again for this major this month. What teams do you think are going to perform well? And do you think there are any teams that might struggle under the pressure of being in a LAN environment? Soniqs, for example, who we spoke about, mostly haven't played at a major tournament when it comes to their individual players. So it will be interesting to see if they'll be able to have the mentality. And I think it will be really interesting, as this tournament honestly shows a lot more accurate of where a lot of teams are, as the Invitational was an accumulation of a lot of points over a year, whereas this major mostly is just from this stage. So we'll get to see the teams that are in the best form right now. I personally think it might be another LATAM show, but I'm really hoping that the other regions, and obviously Europe specifically, are going to step up. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Look out for more content surrounding that tournament, smash a like if you enjoyed, subscribe for more content like this, and I'll see you next time. Peace.